Yeah, my dad, he talks to everybody. And on his travels, he often met American soldiers. And he would chatter to them and ask them stuff. And one of the things they told him that the Lend-Lease is okay, but you know, it's horrible. We love peanut butter and we don't ever get peanut butter. That's our favorite food. And so this went round my father's mind. You know, we grow peanuts. And so he got the idea, and he worked with the head men at the encampment near us and worked it out, and they did it with Lend-Lease. So my mother set up a peanut butter factory, all on her own, on her half pay. And she made little uniforms for the kids with little headdresses, no stuff in it. And they started making peanut butter. And the soldiers would come up from the camp, it's about 60 miles away, and they would come up to take delivery of the peanut butter. And my mother's a very nice old lady. And she said, you know, when they came, she gave them a meal, and she made a couple of cakes and said, take these home to eat on the way or with your friends and all. So this started for a while. And the guys were beginning to enjoy coming up and getting the meal. So it finally turned out that there were about 6 or 8 of them that would come every week. And they would, Mother would have, as soon as the sun set Saturday night, we'd start making noodles and have food for them. And we'd feed them a couple of good meals. They would take delivery of the peanut butter, and Mother would send stuff home with them. Well, this got to be kind of strange. And finally, Captain Huey, who was their captain, said to them, kind of interesting, what are you 6 or 8 guys every time you go up, where are you going? Oh, they said, you know, there's an old missionary couple up there that we go to visit. And the captain said, yeah, I know about this old missionary couple. It's probably a bordello or something up there. He said, I think I'll go with you. And you know, it came up, and guess what? There was an old missionary couple, that's what they had. But these boys were wonderful. They loved it there. They would come all day. A lot of them helped students' finances. They showed them how to play baseball. And it was a real good thing. They came for several years taking peanut butter until the Americans decided that peanut butter wasn't on the list, and so they couldn't do it anymore. The soldiers would come up, and after they'd come for quite a while, they went and got the guy that was in charge of all the supplies on camp. And he came up. And after we'd had our lunch, he took me aside and he said, show me your mother's pantry. So we went in there. She needs white flour. I bet she could use Kleenex. And they made a list of all the things that my folks absolutely couldn't get. And then the next time. So they kept my folks in stuff that they couldn't possibly have had, like flour for bread and stuff. So it was a very nice exchange. And during this captain that I was telling you about, that, you know, the old couple, he finally came to my mom and he said, you know, I have a big favor to ask of you. When I left home, I promised my wife that I'd be true to her, that I wouldn't misbehave in any way. And he said, my vacation time is coming up, and there's too many temptations in Calcutta. Could you let me stay with you for 2 weeks during my vacation? And so he and a sergeant, who was the same kind of a guy, spent, for the 2 years that were there, they spent their vacation time with this old missionary couple. And they had a wonderful time. And this is our missionary work. And the soldiers were very kind, too. They would come up, when they came up to get their peanut butter, they would play with the students. We had them, they would come up early, so they'd be there for lunch. And my mother and I would have prepared a huge lunch for them. We had this long table in our dining room just full of soldiers. And they're really nice guys, but you know, they didn't want to just take without giving. And so they did a lot of stuff for the students. Some of them actually, when they found out how poor the kids were, they actually helped them with their tuition, which was a real blessing. So that was kind of our missionary work extra. And our students loved it. And I can still remember one funny thing. You know, language is kind of different. and they were playing baseball, and the guy had gotten the ball, and the soldier yelled at him, "Beat him to the base of the ball." Well, to him, that meant hit him. So he was hitting him to the base, because what it said, beat him to the base. Beat means. But sometimes they would bring up cloth for the kids' clothing, and just real fun. We enjoyed it very much. And it was a nice break for them. And like I said, the two times that the guys spent their full vacation, I mean, these were not Adventist boys. They were just guys that didn't want to misbehave and were afraid the temptations would be too great. And it was nice. The students loved having them there. I mean, they would tell them stories and play games with them. But the soldiers would come up, we'd give them a good lunch, they'd play with the kids, and then we'd turn the showers, and they'd all bathe and have a nap. We had a house, one roof, but then up on top of the roof, it was a flat roof, there was a building with a roof, and it was screened in, because the breezes came up there. And the guys would all go up there and lie down and have a little nap. And then late evening, they would go on home again after having been with this old couple. And you know, for years after my folks came to the States, these guys would send them Christmas presents and write to them. And it was a nice missionary activity. That was one of my best stories about the old couple. Oh, and then after a little while, when the war was over and the soldiers started going back, there was a lot of stuff that they left behind. And one of the things that they left behind was a generator. And we negotiated for the generator and got it at a pretty cheap price. And my husband, who was good at any kind of stuff, he put the generator, got it going. And so the students they didn't have to have these hot lamps that you pump up that heat up the whole building for study hall. So we would have electricity from 6 to 9 every evening. It was very nice. It was wonderful. And so that's how we could use our equipment. And so that was one of the blessings. The government was actually very good to us that way in many ways. The other thing that the United States did, I don't know if I've told you this or not, but they had a lot of foodstuffs. For instance, powdered milk. Our kids, most of them, you know, once they finished nursing their mothers, they never had milk. But they gave us for free lots of powdered milk. We would get it at regular intervals. And so our kids all had hot drinks, you know, with milk in it, imagine. And so they did a lot of nice things for us. I'll never complain about them. They were very good to us.